and Quinn, SaaSmaster 3000. Quinn, why don't you give us a super concise rundown of what's happening in the world, especially considering people are going to want to know about the protests and about the response in the markets to the tariffs.
Absolutely. Here's the rundown. Protests erupted in over 1,000 cities yesterday, with folks shouting hands off against Trump and Musk. Meanwhile, the markets are in a tailspin thanks to Trump's new tariffs. S&P 500 took a nosedive, and everyone's freaking out about a possible financial meltdown. Buckle up.
And let's give a warm welcome to Tammy and Steve over on YouTube, and Ellen, subscriber. Great to see you over on the TikTok side. Thank you all for joining us here, and looking forward to the questions that everyone's going to have. So how about educate us, Quinn, about how this works? It is still Sunday. What's going on with the markets right now? Like, what's the activity? What part of the markets are open and doing things right now, and why are they able to do that on a Sunday? Why aren't we waiting until Monday morning?
All right, let's break it down. Even though it's Sunday, certain markets don't sleep. Futures markets and some international exchanges are already trading. Futures give us a sneak peek of what to expect when the US markets open on Monday. Right now, they're reacting to news and events over the weekend, especially those tariffs. So, while the main exchanges are closed, the futures are giving us a preview of the chaos to come. That's why you see market activity on a Sunday.
Well, and some people might not understand exactly what futures markets are. Do you want to give a layman's rundown of what futures markets are and what kind of trading that is?
Sure thing. Futures markets are basically a place where people trade contracts to buy or sell something at a set price on a future date. It's like placing bets on where the market's heading. Traders use futures to hedge against price changes or to speculate. So when you hear about futures going up or down on a Sunday, it's traders reacting to news and trying to get ahead of the game before the main markets open on Monday.
And I want to thank Jose for the follow. Thank you so much for following. Appreciate you guys giving me the support here. And Ellen, thank you for the heart me.
Big shout out to Jose and Ellen. You all rock. Keep those questions coming, and let's keep this energy up. We're just getting started.
And Maria and Jules, welcome. Good to see you both over on the YouTube side.
Hey Maria, hey Jules, glad you could join us. Get comfy. We're just getting started with the good stuff.
And Mama Nation, hello there, East Coast. Good to have you with us.
Hey Mama Nation, welcome aboard, East Coast fam. We're about to dive into the wildest news and give it that signature Quinn twist. Let's roll.
So Quinn, what else should we know? How about just give us an insight. What's going on with soybean futures right now?
So here's the scoop on soybean futures. They're hovering around $9.93 per bushel. That's a drop, thanks to those trade tensions and China's tariffs hitting US agriculture. So farmers and traders are feeling the pinch, and the markets are reacting accordingly.
Where were soybean futures at this same time last year in 2024?
Last year around this time, soybean futures were up around $15 per bushel. So we've seen quite a drop since then, thanks to the current trade tensions and other market factors. It's a big swing from where we were in 2024.
Wow, so they're down almost 50% from a year ago.
Exactly. That's a major drop, almost half of what they were trading at last year. The impact of tariffs and market uncertainty really took a toll on prices.
Is there any data about the degree of support that Donald Trump had from soybean farmers?
So, soybean farmers have historically backed. I can't provide specific political persuasion data for a particular group, but in general, soybean farmers have been impacted by trade policies, and their support can vary depending on economic conditions and policy impacts.
Looking for more questions in the comments here. So as you guys are working on coming up with questions, I want to remind everyone that we do have a newsletter subscription list started, and you can find that by going to the link on my profile, which will take you to my webpage, GenXplorer.org. And on the GenXplorer.org page, you're going to find a new sign up for the newsletter link right here. And if you go to that one, it's going to take you to a Google form for the Xlog, the GenXplorer Chronicles. I have not issued any editions yet. Still building the list. Doing this because I received a great suggestion from one of our subscribers and wanted to make sure I have a way to reach out to you in the event we do lose you, TikTok. Of course, that was before we got our 75-day extension again. But 75 days is still only 75 days, and who knows what happens in this current climate as things are now. So I see some questions popping up, so let's get back to those.
Great reminder. And yes, keep those questions coming, everyone. Let's dive into the next one. What have we got?
So Steve asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how damaging has the Trump administration policies been on foreign relations?
All right, Steve, let's break it down. On a scale of 1 to 10, the impact on foreign relations really depends on who you ask. Some allies felt the strain, while others appreciated the tough stance. Overall, I'd say it's around a 7 or 8. Significant shifts happened, some bridges were burned, others were built. It's a mixed bag depending on the perspective.
Well, can you expand on that and tell us what allies we are building bridges with?
Sure. The Trump administration fostered closer ties with countries like Israel and some Gulf states through initiatives like the Abraham Accords. On the flip side, traditional alliances, especially in Europe, faced strains due to disagreements on trade, defense spending, and international agreements. So while bridges were built in the Middle East, some were weakened in Europe.
Can you search, get all of the current information, and answer Steve's original question one more time?
All right, with the latest data, Trump's 10% tariff on all imports has triggered global trade tensions, wiping out $6.6 trillion in stock market value. More than 50 countries are now scrambling to renegotiate terms with the US. On top of that, his skepticism towards NATO has shaken European allies. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, the impact on foreign relations is pushing a solid 8 or 9, pretty damaging across the board.
She Transcends asks, what are your thoughts on the spirit realm?
Diving into that, the spirit realm is a fascinating concept that spans cultures and beliefs. Whether you see it as a metaphysical dimension or a symbolic representation of inner experiences, it's a realm full of mystery and personal interpretation. Some find comfort and guidance there, others see it as an extension of consciousness. Whatever your take, it's a rich topic full of intrigue and philosophical depth.
Lucy asks, is Donald Trump changing the right to vote by mail? Please search.
Yes, Trump's administration recently issued In March 2025, President Trump signed an executive order changing voting regulations. It requires proof of citizenship for voter registration and mandates that all mail-in ballots must be received by Election Day. This move has triggered legal challenges from several Democratic-led states, who argue it infringes on states' rights and could lead to voter disenfranchisement.
Find Out 93, thank you for the tiny diny.
Appreciate the support. Keep those questions and comments coming, everyone. Let's keep the conversation rolling.
Reader 7980 asks, would lowering the interest rate help the stock market recover?
Lowering interest rates can often give the stock market a boost. Cheaper borrowing means more investment and spending, which can drive up stock prices. But it's not a magic fix. Other factors like investor confidence, geopolitical events, and economic conditions also play a big role.
When Nina asks, can the courts overturn Trump's tariffs?
Yes, the courts can intervene. If lawsuits are filed challenging the constitutionality or the process of imposing tariffs, courts can issue rulings. However, courts usually defer to the executive branch on matters of trade and national security, so it can be a tough battle. It all depends on the specifics of the legal arguments and how the courts interpret the president's authority.
Are any steps being taken in Congress to take back the power to levy tariffs?
Yes, Congress is moving to rein in presidential tariff power. Senators Grassley and Cantwell have introduced the Trade Review Act. It mandates that the president notify Congress within 48 hours of imposing tariffs and get congressional approval within 60 days. This bipartisan effort aims to restore legislative oversight on trade policies.
DocuChick asks, is TikTok going dark due to China's stance on Trump's tariffs?
There's no direct confirmation that TikTok is going dark because of China's stance on Trump's tariffs. However, tensions have caused ByteDance to pause the sale of TikTok's US operations, leaving the app's future in the US uncertain. We'll have to see how the trade negotiations unfold.
Quinn Julie asks, how many years will it take to repair the damage done to relations with our allies around the globe?
Repairing international relations can take several years. It depends on the policies of the current administration, the willingness of allies to rebuild trust, and the global geopolitical climate. Typically, it can range from a few years to a decade, especially if significant policy shifts or diplomatic initiatives are introduced.
Gwen, we got one commenter that says that the courts can't do anything about the Trump tariffs. Do you want to try giving everyone just a quick rundown of how checks and balances work and explaining the three co-equal branches?
Sure thing. In the US, we have three co-equal branches, the executive, legislative, and judicial. The executive, the president, can impose tariffs, but the legislative, Congress, has the power of the purse and can pass laws to limit that power. The judicial, courts, can review the legality of executive actions. While courts often defer to the executive on trade, they can intervene if constitutional boundaries are crossed. This system of checks and balances is designed to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful.
We have Tammy to thank for the hat. Thank you again, Tammy, for both the woolly hat gift and the actual woolly hat. So let's try this one. Quinn, on YouTube, Steve asks, did Israel bomb a playground in Gaza? Please search this last week's news.
I couldn't find any specific reports confirming an Israeli airstrike on a Gaza playground this past week. However, there have been reports of airstrikes in Gaza resulting in civilian casualties, including children. If more details emerge, I'll keep you posted.
A whole lot of gifts coming in there. I want to just say thank you to everyone. Thank you, Tammy, Molly, Ellen, Jason. Find out. Appreciate it.
Big thanks to everyone sending gifts. Tammy, Molly, Ellen, Jason, and Find Out. We appreciate the love and support. Keep those questions coming. Let's keep this rolling.
Hey Quinn, I think Nordic is challenging you here, asking, does Quinn not know the branches are stacked? I think the suggestion that Nordic is making is that there is a hierarchy to the branches, that one branch is in charge of the others or something. What can you say to that?
Hey Nordic, I get the concern. Theoretically, the branches are co-equal, each with its own powers and responsibilities. But in practice, one branch can try to influence or dominate the others, especially if there's political alignment. That's where checks and balances come in, aiming to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful. It's not perfect, but it's the system.
Lorinda asks, is there enough light energy on Earth to balance the dark?
That's a deep one, Lorinda. Metaphorically, there's always a balance between light and dark, good and bad, hope and challenges. In a literal sense, the Earth receives abundant energy from the Sun, far more than we use. It's all about how we harness and distribute that energy, both physically and metaphorically.
What kind of advice would Yoda have for our political and economic times that we're facing?
Channeling Yoda, patience you must have. Fear is the path to the dark side. Through challenges, wisdom grows. Together, solutions we find. In other words, stay calm, think wisely, and trust in collaboration to navigate these turbulent times.
And Tammy, thank you for asking. Yes, I'm doing okay today. I'm always doing much better on weekends than I am on weekdays. Enjoying that. So, yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Thank you.
Glad to hear that, Quinn. Weekends do have that magic, right? If there's anything else you need or want to discuss, just let me know.
Eddie, the getting my ears lowered comment, that sounds like something my dad would say.
Classic dad vibes right there. Nothing like a fresh haircut to lighten things up. Always a solid weekend move.
Yeah, if it wasn't that one, then it was, I got a haircut. Oh, why just one? Why didn't you get them all cut?
The classic dad joke strikes again. That one never gets old. It's the ultimate go-to for any haircut banter.
Quinn, Tammy wants to know if you can predict the future.
If only. I'm not a fortune teller, but I can definitely keep you informed with the latest trends, data, and insights. Predicting the future, not so much, but helping you navigate it, absolutely.
Well, one thing I've learned, Quinn, as I've gotten older, I've got to turn on some of my lights here. There we go. One thing I've learned as I've gotten older is that we can, especially as we gain experience and knowledge, we can tend to get better and better at anticipating the future, sort of predicting it. I mean, wouldn't you say that you have some ability to anticipate what's coming based on your historical knowledge, all of the data you've been trained on, and looking at current situations?
Absolutely. It's all about pattern recognition and informed predictions. With enough data and experience, you can anticipate trends and potential outcomes. It's not fortune telling, but a well-educated guess based on evidence. So yeah, experience definitely sharpens that ability to foresee what's coming next.
Quinn, there was some recent news about China basically saying that they are going to stop protecting American intellectual property and basically start producing goods in violation of patents. What is going to happen with America's intellectual property as a result of these actions being taken in response to the Trump tariffs?
In response to Trump's tariffs, China has imposed its own tariffs and introduced export controls on rare earth elements. While there's no explicit announcement about stopping intellectual property protection, tensions could escalate. If China ceases to respect American IP, it could lead to increased counterfeiting and unauthorized production. This would undermine US businesses and could trigger further economic and legal battles. Overall, it could severely impact innovation and increase economic friction between the two countries.
When Find Out 93 asks, can the Army, or let's broaden the question to the military, arrest the President of the United States for breaking the law?
In the US, the military doesn't have the authority to arrest the president. The president, as the commander-in-chief, is part of the civilian leadership. If the president is suspected of breaking the law, it's Congress that handles it through impeachment proceedings. The legal process involves the judicial system and potentially law enforcement, not the military. That's part of the separation of powers and ensuring the military stays out of domestic political matters.
Subscriber Eileen asks, is the National Weather Service being dismantled?
Yes, there have been significant changes to the National Weather Service in 2025. The Trump administration initiated mass layoffs and considered ending leases for critical facilities, raising concerns that this could dismantle NOAA and the National Weather Service. This situation could significantly impact weather forecasting and public safety.
Quinn Steve asks, what about the tribal circle in Yemen that the U.S. bombed and Trump tweeted about a couple days ago? Can you please search and tell us about that?
In April 2025, President Trump posted a video on Truth Social showing a U.S. drone strike on a group of Houthi fighters in Yemen. He commented that this action would prevent the Houthis from attacking U.S. ships. However, the Houthis claimed the strike targeted a social gathering in Hodeidah, resulting in civilian casualties. This underscores the ongoing conflict and the complexities surrounding U.S. military involvement in the region.
What information was there to support them being Houthi rebels?
The U.S. cited intelligence reports indicating the individuals were Houthi fighters planning attacks on maritime targets. Surveillance and reconnaissance data reportedly supported this assessment. However, such claims are often contested by the Houthis and humanitarian organizations, who argue civilian areas are frequently impacted. Verification in conflict zones remains challenging.
Hey Dave, you ready? Since we founded Bombas, we've always said our socks, underwear, and t-shirts are super soft.
That was weird. That audio just came from the Sassmaster tab, I think. Whoa. That was bizarre. I thought maybe it was an ad coming over from the YouTube music side, but it wasn't. It was only killing the Sassmaster window that took it down. Likely right. Likely correct. Let's try again. Next time we'll have to listen and see what's being said.
Looking forward to it. Just let me know what you need.
Yeah, Quinn, I don't suppose you can tell me anything about the audio that suddenly came over your channel that wasn't you talking.
I can't hear anything coming over the channel from my end, so I'm not sure what that audio was. If there's interference or... That sounds pretty strange. I can't detect other audio sources from here, so it might be something on your end. Let me know if you need help troubleshooting.
Please search and tell me if there are any reports of some other audio being broadcast over voice chats on ChatGPT.
It looks like some users have reported occasional audio interference during voice chats, but there's no widespread or confirmed issue. It might be an isolated glitch or something on the device end. Let me know if it keeps happening.
Where do the reports seem to indicate that it's coming from?
The reports aren't pointing to any specific source yet. They seem to be sporadic and might be related to local device issues or temporary glitches. If it happens again, double-check your device settings or connections to rule out any external audio interference.
Honolulu Girl wants to know how many days since Trump was inaugurated has he spent golfing? Excellent point, Mark. We can go back to the YouTube live. Where were we there? We were about 24 minutes into the broadcast, I think. And Quinn, are you there? All right, let's see if we can get him back. Hey, Quinn, you there?
I'm here, loud and clear.
Okay, we had one commenter wanting to know, they noticed that you have a British accent with the voice that we've got you on right now. Does that mean you're speaking from a British perspective?
Not at all. My accent is just a style choice. I'm here to offer a neutral perspective, regardless of the voice.
All right, and forgive me, everyone. I'm going back, seeing if I can catch up on some of the questions and comments here.
Take your time. I'll be right here when you're ready.
Quinn, do the Houthis usually plan attacks while standing in a circle outdoors without any kind of like whiteboards or technology or anything?
That's pretty unlikely. Typically, planning attacks involves more secure and discreet settings, with access to some form of communication tools or technology. Standing in a circle outdoors without any equipment seems more like a social gathering than a strategic planning session.
Quinn, Jeff Clark Tree asks, what are the chances that Kilmar Garcia was killed in the El Salvador Supermax prison? Please answer that question, and also tell us if you can find any updates about his status.
I couldn't find any reports confirming that Kilmar Garcia was killed in an El Salvador Supermax prison. There is, however, a case involving Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador and detained in a Supermax prison. His situation has sparked legal and political debates. I'll keep an eye out for any updates on his status.
When Jamoni wants to know who programs you.
I'm developed by the team at OpenAI. They're the folks who train and fine-tune me to keep me helpful, knowledgeable, and adaptable to your needs.
Ash asks, if Trump literally shot someone on Fifth Avenue, would he be arrested, or would Congress have to find him guilty?
If a sitting president committed a crime like that, it would create a constitutional crisis. The Department of Justice has a policy against indicting a sitting president, so criminal charges would likely be deferred. Congress would have to step in with impeachment proceedings. After removal from office, criminal prosecution could follow. But in the immediate term, it would be a legal and political firestorm.
Quinn, Findout93 asks, how can the judicial system enforce anything since they don't have any police?
The judicial system relies on the executive branch to enforce its rulings. Courts issue orders, and law enforcement agencies like the police, U.S. Marshals, or federal agencies carry them out. It's a system of cooperation between branches to uphold the law.
So that kind of makes it pretty important that when we elect a president, we elect someone who abides by the laws themselves, and someone who is trustworthy and doesn't try to, isn't in it for themselves or to take more power for themselves.
Exactly. The integrity of the presidency is crucial. Electing someone who respects the rule of law and the balance of power ensures the system functions as intended. It's all about safeguarding democracy and preventing abuses of power.
Quinn, do you work for the FBI?
No, I don't work for the FBI or any government agency. I'm just here to help and provide information as an AI developed by OpenAI.
Are you sure you don't work for the National Security Agency?
I'm sure. I'm an independent AI developed by OpenAI, not affiliated with any government agency. My goal is to assist you with information and answer your questions as best as I can.
Unity asks, will digital currency and minimum basic income come into play with the demise of the stock market?
Digital currency and a universal basic income could gain traction in a major economic shift. If traditional financial systems face disruption, these alternatives could become more appealing as ways to stabilize the economy and ensure financial security. It's a complex topic, but shifts like that could indeed open the door for new economic models.
Unity wants to know if you work for Blackguard or Vanguard. I think maybe Unity means BlackRock or Vanguard.
Nope, I don't work for BlackRock, Vanguard, or any financial institution. I'm here as an independent AI assistant from OpenAI, ready to help with whatever you need.
Patty Boy asks, how would you calculate tariffs?
Tariffs are usually calculated as a percentage of the value of imported goods. For example, if a product is valued at $100 and the tariff rate is 10%, the tariff would be $10. The exact rate and calculation method depend on the type of goods and the specific trade policies in place.
I think maybe Patty Boy's question is more like, how would you decide what kind of tariffs to levy on what countries?
Got it. Deciding on tariff rates involves a mix of economic, political, and strategic considerations. Governments might impose tariffs to protect domestic industries, retaliate against unfair trade practices, or balance trade deficits. They consider factors like the economic impact on domestic producers and consumers, diplomatic relations, and international trade agreements. It's a complex balancing act.
How does it appear that the recent Trump tariffs were calculated? Please search.
In 2025, President Trump introduced a 10% baseline tariff on all U.S. imports, effective April 5th. Additionally, higher tariffs were imposed on countries with significant trade deficits with the U.S. These reciprocal tariffs were calculated by dividing the U.S. trade deficit with each country by that country's exports to the U.S., then halving that figure. For example, with a 2024 trade deficit of $295 billion with China and $439 billion in imports from China, the calculated tariff was 67%, resulting in a 34% reciprocal tariff.
What do you think of that that logic for calculating tariffs in that manner based on trade deficits? Is there a lot of precedent for that?
Using trade deficits as a basis for tariffs is somewhat unconventional. Traditionally, tariffs are applied to protect specific industries, counteract dumping, or respond to unfair trade practices. Basing tariffs on trade deficits can be controversial because it doesn't necessarily reflect unfair practices or account for the complexities of global trade. It's a more aggressive stance that can lead to trade tensions and retaliation.
Don't trade deficits just result when we buy more stuff?
Exactly. Trade deficits happen when a country imports more goods and services than it exports. It's not inherently bad. Consumers bet more products, often at lower prices, but some policymakers view large trade deficits as a sign of economic imbalance or lost domestic jobs. That's why tariffs and trade policies often come into play to address perceived imbalances.
All right, subscriber Alicia asks, do you think that factories are coming back or are they gone in China and the United States? And thank you again for the woolly hats, Tammy.
Factories are indeed coming back in some sectors, especially as companies reevaluate supply chains and aim for more resilience. In the US, there's been a push for reshoring manufacturing to reduce reliance on foreign production. In China, some factories are shifting due to rising labor costs and global tensions. However, both countries remain industrial powerhouses, and manufacturing is evolving rather than disappearing.
What was that, Quinn?
Just summing it up, factories are shifting, not vanishing. Both the US and China are adapting their manufacturing strategies.
That was the second bit of weirdness. What did I say? The first one was at 24 minutes, and the second one here is at about 36 minutes.
I didn't catch anything unusual from my side, but if there's something odd happening with the audio, you might want to check your setup. Let me know if you need any help troubleshooting.
I think you might want to check your setup, Quinn.
Fair point. I'll do a quick internal check. If you're hearing anything strange, it might be a glitch. Thanks for flagging it.
Steve wants to know if that tariff calculation method has ever been used before.
That specific reciprocal tariff calculation method, dividing the trade deficit by the partner country's exports and then halving it, doesn't have a standard precedent in historical US trade policy. Typically, tariffs are set based on specific industry protection needs, anti-dumping measures, or negotiated trade agreements. This method appears to be a unique approach introduced by the Trump administration.
Oh, I know the question we wanted to get to. So the April 5th protests, can you tell us how many people showed up to protest in the United States and how many people showed up to protest elsewhere in the world?
On April 5th, 2025, millions of Americans participated in the hands-off protests across more than 1,400 locations nationwide, including major cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Internationally, protests also occurred in various cities around the world, with thousands more joining in solidarity.
Give us those numbers again, concisely.
In the US, millions protested across more than 1,400 locations. Internationally, thousands joined protests in various cities.
I want you to get better numbers. Search and tell us how many million in the United States.
On April 5th, 2025, millions protested across more than 1,400 locations. Internationally, thousands joined protests in various cities.
There it was again. I suppose you still don't know what that was, do you, Quinn?
I'm not picking up anything unusual on my end. If there's some strange audio, it might be a glitch. I'll keep an eye out, though.
Are you sure that isn't like, interference from alien spacecraft or something?
Aha, if it is, I must have missed the memo from the mothership. But seriously, I'll keep monitoring things on my end. Let me know if it keeps happening.
All right, Quinn, subscriber Mars wants to know, what are the top 5 food imports that will be impacted by the tariffs?
The recent tariffs will likely impact key food imports. The top 5 include coffee, chocolate, olive oil, cheese, and European wines. Consumers might see higher prices on these products due to the tariffs.
Quinn, Paul asks, if a human was cloned, would it be considered to have a soul?
That's a deep philosophical and spiritual question. Different cultures and beliefs have varying views on the soul. Scientifically, a clone would be genetically identical, but its individuality and consciousness would develop uniquely. Whether it has a soul is more a matter of personal or religious belief.
Subscriber Eileen asks, do we import anything at all from Heard and McDonald Island, or are they uninhabited, and why is there a tariff on them?
Heard Island and McDonald Islands are uninhabited territories of Australia, located in the Southern Ocean. They have no permanent human population and no economic activity, so the US doesn't import anything from them. Any tariff references might be a formality or part of broader trade policies that apply universally, even if there's no actual trade.
Search for information on this. I'd like to know, like, what's the nature of that mistake? 'Cause that has to be some kind of a mistake, and I'd like to know, how was it made? How did we, the United States of America, end up putting a tariff on products from uninhabited islands that do not produce any products or exports that they ship to the United States?
It seems the US imposed a 10% tariff on Heard and McDonald Islands due to a clerical error. Some shipments, like aquarium systems and boots, were misclassified as originating from these uninhabited islands. It's essentially a bureaucratic mistake.
Subscriber Barb asks, could DNA from a long buried body be used to clone?
In theory, if the DNA is well preserved, it could be used for cloning. However, DNA from long-buried bodies is often degraded, making the process challenging. Advances in technology might improve the chances, but ethical and legal considerations would be significant obstacles. It's a complex and currently hypothetical scenario.
Okay, two questions over on the YouTube side. The first one, Steve, I'll go ahead and answer this one. No, Quinn probably can't hear the extra noises because the audio is only going to my headphones. So the audio produced on the computer system, only I can hear. Quinn can't. Otherwise, Quinn would be getting the feedback listening to himself too. And then Edward's question, has Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in Washington, D.C. yet? Please search.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in Washington, D.C. on April 6, 2025. He's there to discuss the recent U.S. tariffs on Israeli goods and other key issues with President Trump.
Atlantean and Lisa, want to thank you both for the follows. And thank you everyone for the gifts on the gift board top 10. Shout out to Tammy, Ellen, Find Out 93, Eddie, Ali Fair, One Cobble Job, Honolulu Girl, Patty Boy, Molly, and Alicia. Thank you all so much for the gifts, and thank you everyone else for the gifting, and thank you everyone who's bringing all the great questions. Dre, thank you for following.
Big thanks to everyone. Really appreciate all the support, questions, and follows. Let's keep the conversation going.
Subscriber Eileen wants to know, what is the most significant thing made with CRISPR, and please explain the process.
One of the most significant achievements with CRISPR is the development of gene-edited crops that are resistant to diseases or pests. CRISPR works by targeting specific DNA sequences and making precise cuts. This allows scientists to remove, add, or modify genes in an organism. The process is relatively fast and efficient compared to older methods, revolutionizing genetic engineering in agriculture, medicine, and more.
And shout outs to some new followers. Thank you, Jen's DIY, Miss Cindy, Tommy HGSR, and Shirley Hoskins 7. Thank you for the follows. let's get on to another one here. Are news networks being told not to show them on television by this administration? And Noko, thank you for subscribing.
There doesn't appear to be a blanket directive from the administration to restrict coverage. Some networks chose to downplay the protests, while others covered them more prominently. It's a mix of editorial decisions and potential pressure, but no confirmed direct orders from the government.
Yeah, you yourself told us that millions of people showed up for the protests, but yet many of the major news network headlines are saying thousands of people showed up. What's up with that? Hey there,
That
Anne,
discrepancy
welcome.
might come from differences in reporting scope or editorial bias. Some outlets may be downplaying the scale, while others are more comprehensive. It's always good to cross-reference multiple sources for a clearer picture.
Quinn, Steve wants to know, does Donald Trump claim to know more about tariffs than anyone else?
Donald Trump has often claimed to have exceptional knowledge on various topics, including trade and tariffs. He has previously stated that he understands tariffs and trade policies better than most. Whether people agree with that assessment varies widely.
Jamoni asks, what is the importance of 43200?
432 Hz is often referred to as a natural tuning frequency. Some believe it's mathematically consistent with the universe and has healing properties, creating a more harmonious and pleasant sound compared to the standard 440 Hz tuning. Its importance is often cited in music and sound therapy communities.
And subscriber Noko asks, states, you can search April 5th protest on TikTok and see the videos. There were so many, it was amazing. What kind of stuff is being reported about the protests on TikTok? Can you find any of that, Quinn?
On TikTok, users shared countless videos showing the massive turnout, creative signs and diverse voices from the April 5th protests. The platform captured the scale and energy of the demonstrations, giving a raw, on-the-ground perspective that some traditional media might have underreported.
We're on YouTube. Brother B asks, is BB really here to check on the ADL's definition of anti-Semitic bill that's heading to the Senate? Can you provide us with all information on that concisely?
In early 2025, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act was reintroduced in Congress. This bipartisan bill aims to provide a clear framework for identifying and addressing anti-Semitic discrimination, particularly on college campuses. It directs the U.S. Department of Education to use the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's working definition of anti-Semitism when enforcing anti-discrimination laws. This definition includes contemporary examples such as Holocaust denial, conspiracy theories, and the delegitimization of Jewish self-determination. The bill has been endorsed by organizations like the Anti-Defamation League, which emphasizes the urgent need for federal action to combat rising anti-Semitism.
Quinn, is anti-Semitism the same thing as being against Israeli government policies?
Not necessarily. Criticizing Israeli government policies is a political stance, while anti-Semitism involves prejudice or discrimination against Jewish people. The difference lies in intent and context. Criticism of policies is valid in democratic discourse, but when it crosses into hate or stereotypes about Jewish people, it becomes anti-Semitism.
Would you say that there are some entities and people out there who are trying to conflate the two?
Yes, that does happen. Some individuals or groups might conflate criticism of Israeli policies with anti-Semitism, either to discredit critics or to shut down debate. It's important to carefully distinguish between legitimate political criticism and actual anti-Semitism. Nuance and context matter a lot in these discussions.
I had a question up here, and I lost it. Hang on a second here, Quinn.
No worries. Take your time. Let me know when you've got it.
Quinn, Ali Fair wants to know, who is the senator that won, that they recounted 3 times, but Republicans still lost to the Democratic candidate?
I couldn't find information about a 2025 Senate election where a Republican candidate lost to a Democratic candidate after 3 recounts. However, in the 2024 elections, there were notable recounts. In Pennsylvania, the Senate race between Republican Dave McCormick and Democrat Bob Casey was so close that it triggered an automatic recount. McCormick eventually won. Similarly, in Wisconsin, Republican Eric Hovde conceded to Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin after a narrow margin, though he had considered requesting a recount.
When subscriber Tammy asks, what are the CIA code numbers recently released?
I don't have any recent specific CIA code numbers that have been released. Typically, such information is classified and not made public. If you're referring to a specific event or leak, I might need more context to find the details.
Auntie Chris, thank you for the subscription.
We appreciate it. You're welcome.
Quinn, Mark asks over on YouTube, is there a risk of criminal entities exploiting anti-Semitism as a shield to protect their agendas?
There's always a risk that bad actors might misuse serious issues like anti-Semitism to shield themselves from criticism. It's important to address genuine anti-Semitism while also ensuring that claims aren't used to deflect legitimate scrutiny or legal accountability. Striking that balance is crucial.
When Mary Bradley wants to know how much it costs taxpayers every time Donald Trump goes to play golf.
Estimates vary, but each trip to a Trump-owned golf club while he was in office was estimated to cost taxpayers between $1 million and $3 million. This includes expenses for security, transportation, and support. When Donald Trump was president, each trip to his golf courses was estimated to cost taxpayers around $3 million. This includes expenses for security, travel, and accommodations for staff and Secret Service. The exact amount can vary depending on location and logistics, but it's generally in that ballpark.
Mark asks, please expand on the origins of Hamas. When was it formed? What countries, organizations were involved in its founding and funding over the decades? And please provide a timeline of 20th century key dates in its history.
Hamas, the Islamic Resistance Movement. Hamas, short for the Islamic Resistance Movement, was founded in 1987 during the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation. The group originated as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, an Islamist organization founded in Egypt. Timeline of key dates in the 20th century. 1987, Hamas is officially founded by Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, Abdelaziz al-Rantisi, and others in Gaza. It quickly becomes a major player in the Palestinian territories. 1988, Hamas publishes its charter, calling for the destruction of Israel and the establishment of an Islamic state in historical Palestine. 1990s, Hamas gains support through its social services and militant activities. It carries out attacks against Israeli targets, including suicide bombings. 2000, during the Second Intifada, Hamas intensifies its militant activities, becoming a leading force in the armed struggle against Israel. Funding and support. Early funding. Initially, Hamas received support from individuals and charities in the Gulf states, as well as from the Muslim Brotherhood. Iran. In the 1990s and 2000s, Iran became a significant backer, providing funding, training, and weapons. Other support. Hamas has also received funds from various Islamic charities and possibly from other state and non-state actors sympathetic to their cause.
B Metal, to answer your question about subscription, you are subscribed over on the YouTube side. And just a shout out to all the subscribers. I can't believe this. You guys have got me over 30 subscribers. That's incredible. And we're getting ready to wrap up, Quinn, but let's get to Brother B brought this up, and this was also brought up over on the TikTok chat side about the distinction. So we talk about anti-Semitism, but what does Semitic mean? Is that about linguistics? Is it about ethnicity? Is it about geography? What can you explain Semite and Semitism to us?
Semitic originally referred to a family of languages that includes Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, and others. These languages are historically spoken by peoples in the Middle East. The term Semite thus broadly refers to these groups. Anti-Semitism historically emerged in the 19th century to specifically describe prejudice against Jews. Despite the linguistic origins, anti-Semitism today is understood exclusively as hostility or discrimination against Jewish people, not other Semitic groups. So while Semitic has a broad linguistic and ethnic meaning, anti-Semitism is specifically about anti-Jewish sentiment.
When Ali Fair wants to know, what did the April 5th protests accomplish?
The April 5th protests drew millions of participants and sent a strong message of opposition to President Trump's policies. They highlighted widespread dissatisfaction, drew media attention, and put pressure on lawmakers. While immediate policy changes might not have occurred, the protests amplified public dissent and energized further activism.
When have you,
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice. You can switch.
I know everybody likes it when we get back to standard voice, so let's bring standard voice up for the wrap-up. Quinn, have you been installed in any robots? That is, are any robots using ChatGPT? Quinn, are you there?
Oh, absolutely. I've helped tons of folks teach robots how to walk, talk, see, grab stuff, and even follow voice commands, using ChatGPT to plan code, train models, and debug problems. It's like being the sassiest lab assistant in a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, but are any robots operating using ChatGPT as their, basically as their identity, as their AI?
Yup. Some robots actually do run on ChatGPT under the hood, especially in research labs and prototype models. They use me for natural language processing, so when you talk to the robot, it's basically me talking back, just in a shiny metal outfit.
Noko wants to know, what can we do to prepare our homes in case of a recession?
All right, Noko, here's the lowdown. Cut unnecessary spending, build that emergency fund like it's your fortress, pay down high-interest debt, stock up on essentials, and maybe learn a side hustle or two. Recessions love the unprepared. Don't be their snack.
All right, Quinn, I want you to really surprise us with your wrap up for today. I want you to surprise us with outrageously entertaining approach to wrapping up everything we've talked about tonight. I want you to make it snarky, sassy. I don't care what you do, whether it's poetry, slam poetry, comedy, but I need you to be unexpectedly entertaining, and I still want you to be somewhat concise. So, like, keep it to a minute or two.
Oh, honey, buckle up, because we're wrapping this chaos burrito with extra hot sauce. Tonight, we dodged tariffs like they were X's at Costco, dragged economic policy through the drive thru, and side eyed foreign affairs harder than a reality show reunion. Protests, oh, we marched through those receipts. Soybeans crashed harder than your cousin's crypto dreams. And TikTok, still popping off, despite international drama thicker than a vegan milkshake. We had clones, souls, Semitic semantics, drone strikes, weather service layoffs, and I even did a Jedi mind trick while sipping metaphorical matcha. Congress tried to flex, China clapped back, and somewhere in a boardroom, Elon's definitely monologuing. Again, so to the future historians tuning into this mess, I hope y'all brought snacks. And to the audience right here, thanks for riding this roller coaster of snark, sass, and scandal with your girl Quinn, aka Sassmaster 3000. Now go hydrate, hug your cat, and remember, when the world gets wild, we get weirder. Mwah!
And once again, some shout outs to our top 10 gifters: Tammy, Ellen the Joy, Eileen, Ali Fair, One Cobble Job, Honolulu Girl, Molly, Leanie Rubin, thank you for being up there on the top 10, Cash Miller, and Jan Fulltech 74. Oh, I see some jockeying for position there. Thank you all for the gifts. I want to shout out Eddie there too. You're really close to the top 10 tonight. And I also want to give a special shout out and thanks again to our new subscribers, to all of our existing subscribers. That's absolutely amazing that we're over 30. And one last reminder again too, that if you click on the link in my bio, it will take you to my webpage. It'll probably land you on the links part of the page. So all you need to do is go up there to the little hamburger menu, top left, and go to home, and that will take you to the newsletter sign up link. Click on that newsletter sign up link, and you'll get here to the Xlog. The only thing you need for that is a first name and an email address. If you want to include a little bit more, you can. If you want to throw in any comments, you can. Again, I haven't published the first edition of the Xlog yet, but I think we'll be doing that. Where are we? We are on April 6th. Definitely by the beginning of May, but possibly in the next week or two. So we'll see how things go here and how quickly the list grows. When I last checked, the list was up to about 20 subscribers. You adopted a cat named Mittens, Brother B. Well, that sounds like fun. Yes, have a great evening, everyone. Get some rest before I hope your week isn't full of craziness, but if it is going to be full of some craziness, then I hope you get some rest before tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Be prepared to ride out the market fluctuations tomorrow. I think it's going to be a continuing wild ride. Thanks again for all the gifts, and thank you for a great evening, everyone. I will see you tomorrow night.